gentleman I'm about to introduce to you is going to moderate a very important session. We now are going to turn to digital agendas, national digital agendas. It is the digital agendas that drive the countries to achieve maximum benefit from ICT. It is our hope during this session that the countries from around the world will gain a better understanding of how to either begin, enhance, or change their own agendas so that they will be able to quickly achieve sustainable results for their citizens. It's my pleasure to introduce Andy Wyckoff, the Director of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development Directorate of Science, the OECD. At the OECD, he oversees work on innovation, business dynamics, science and technology, information communication technology, policy, as well as statistical work associated with each of these areas. His experience prior to the OECD includes being program manager of the Information, Telecommunications, and Commerce program of the U.S. Congressional Office of Technology Assessment, an economist at the U.S. National Science Foundation, and a programmer at the Brookings Institute. Dr. Wyckoff has a bachelor's degree in economics, master's in policy, and a doctorate from John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. Please welcome Andrew Wyckoff.
Good morning. Great pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
I feel incredibly privileged to moderate this first session of this conference with the broad theme
How are you, Alejandra Lagunes?
of developing comprehensive digital agendas. And I want to emphasize two words in that title. And those would be comprehensive and digital. In essence, what we're really talking about here are economic and social policies for the 21st century economy and society. It has to be based on a digital approach because this is what's transforming our economies today, and by the end of the century, it will certainly be more than complete. Information and communication technologies, what I call ICTs, are an important foundation for these agendas, but to succeed, we need complementary policies to develop skills, engage small medium enterprises, incubate new businesses, develop local content, and transform government operations around these new technologies. So it's not just supply, where I think we spend a lot of our time focusing, but also demand. Now I know from where I sit in the OECD, this is far from easy. It requires reform and changes, and these are never always universally welcome. It requires coordination across ministries and between different levels of government, which can be extraordinarily hard as well. But there's no place better to discuss the development and implementation of these strategies than in Guadalajara and Jalisco in Mexico. We're at the center of really path-breaking reforms that are underway in this country, not the least of which have been in communication services. This is certainly something we've been closely watching from the OECD, and I want to congratulate the Mexican government on their progress. Given this, it's my pleasure to introduce our three speakers in this panel. Let me start with Alejandra Lagunes. She's the coordinator for the National Digital Strategy of Mexico within the Office of the President of Mexico. She will be followed by Dr. Warren Chen. He is the Chief Technology Officer for the Taiwanese Institute of Information Industry. And finally, we will hear from Minister Johnson, the Minister of Communication Technologies of Nigeria. We bring forward to you this morning 3 different continents and 3 different perspectives from 3 very different stages of development. But I think a lot of the lessons and experiences you'll be hearing about are very common. And with that, let me welcome up Alejandra Lagunes.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Oh, thank you very much. Muchas gracias, muy buenos días a todos. Quiero agradecer a WCIT y al gobierno de Jalisco por tener este magnífico evento. Muy buenos días a todos. Veo muchas caras conocidas, lo cual me da muchísimo gusto como siempre. Y yo quisiera empezar por hablar del contexto más general del reto al que nos enfrentamos desde gobierno, que es un contexto de gobernanza. La gobernanza en este siglo, en el siglo XXI, está cambiando y desarrollándose pues en un contexto de pérdida de confianza de la gente hacia sus gobiernos. Y por otro lado estamos viviendo una revolución tecnológica que durante los últimos 20 años ha transformado por completo las estructuras sociales. Esas dos cosas ponen un reto a los gobiernos, que es reinventarse. La forma en que la gente se relaciona con sus gobiernos ha cambiado radicalmente, y las expectativas que la gente tenemos sobre los resultados de los gobiernos es enorme. Así pues, la confianza tarda mucho en construirse, se pierde muy rápido. La confianza es el resultado de ser un buen gobierno. Y ser un buen gobierno en el siglo XXI quiere decir ser un gobierno transparente, un gobierno sin corrupción, un gobierno que participe y que colabore con la gente, un gobierno que innove, que de una manera diferente, innovadora, enfrente los problemas que tenemos como sociedad. Y aquí es donde entra la tecnología. La tecnología entra a ser una de las herramientas para ayudar al gobierno a reconstruir la confianza de la gente, mejorando los servicios, mejorando la comunicación, utilizando nuevas plataformas de comunicación, plataformas participativas, las redes sociales, mejorando los servicios, evidentemente digitalizando y simplificando, y mejorando la calidad de información que damos con mecanismos como el Open Data. Así pues nos enfrentamos a este reto que todos los gobiernos en el mundo me parece que se enfrentan, y en México quisiera yo platicar de cuáles son los retos y los grandes aprendizajes que hemos tenido en este año y medio de administración. El primero era que tener una estrategia digital nacional que fuera incluyente no era una opción, era una necesidad. Así que nos encontramos con el primer gran reto, que era ¿qué es una estrategia digital? Y en este primer gran reto fue desarrollar durante varios meses qué tenía que contener una estrategia digital nacional en un país como México, en un país con grandes inequidades, con todavía muchos millones, casi la mitad de la población en situación de pobreza, con diferencias de acceso a las tecnologías muy grandes. Así es que este primer reto nos dimos cuenta que para enfrentarlo teníamos que alinearnos a las prioridades del gobierno, y estas prioridades del gobierno están en el Plan Nacional de Desarrollo. Así es que el primer reto fue ¿qué tiene que contener la estrategia digital? Esa estrategia digital se alineó por completo al Plan Nacional de Desarrollo y a las grandes necesidades que tenemos en México. Y así llegamos a una estrategia que fue construida de la mano y en colaboración con diversos stakeholders, y llegamos a una estrategia cuyos objetivos estaban perfectamente claros y dentro del Plan Nacional de Desarrollo, y bueno, evidentemente las prioridades para la ciudadanía: educación, salud, seguridad, economía y una profunda transformación de gobierno. El segundo gran reto, y también que aprendimos muchísimo en esto, era cómo implementarlo. Ya teníamos la política pública, el documento de política pública, que además estaba dentro del Plan Nacional de Desarrollo. El segundo era, bueno, ¿cómo le vamos a hacer? ¿Cómo implementar esto? Porque se necesita de una coordinación transversal, se necesita trabajar con todas las secretarías, con todas las dependencias de gobierno. Así es que para México se tomó la decisión de que, sobre todo en una primera etapa, la coordinación de la estrategia digital nacional estuviera en muy alto nivel en la oficina del presidente, y que pudiera tener el empoderamiento para poder estar coordinando y trabajando con todas las dependencias. Este es el gran aprendizaje, que cada país tiene que determinar quién implementa una estrategia digital nacional. Para México, estar en la oficina de la presidencia nos ha permitido, en este casi un año de la presentación de la estrategia digital nacional, poder tener resultados ya muy tangibles, poder trabajar de manera transversal, poder coordinar a las dependencias, poder tener la visibilidad también de duplicidades, poder ver las oportunidades, porque realmente desde la presidencia se tiene una visión muy general de gobierno. Y el tercer gran reto y aprendizaje es la gestión del cambio. El reto más grande para el gobierno es el cambio. En el ADN del gobierno no está innovar y cambiar, está más bien lo contrario, el status quo. Así es que cuando hablas de implementar una estrategia digital donde todo es cambio, se vuelve un reto per se. Y el reto entonces ha sido cómo logramos y cómo administramos este cambio. En primer lugar, tuvimos que identificar agentes de cambio, tuvimos que identificar aquellos champions dentro de las dependencias que iban a apoyar la estrategia digital, pero que iban a ser también los primeros que iban a hacer implementar los cambios, que iban a ser los primeros en marcar la pauta de hacia dónde ir. En segundo lugar, teníamos que aprovechar el momentum. Y esto es bien importante porque tienes un tiempo en el que todas las dependencias y la gente te sigue, traes muchísima fuerza para poder hacer este trabajo que es titánico. Así es que hay que aprovechar los primeros meses para hacer los grandes cambios. Y cuando hablo de grandes cambios, estamos hablando de cambios en política pública, de cambios en la normatividad, de cambios en las reglas de operación, incluso en cambios en la ley. Así es que estos meses hemos estado trabajando muy fuerte en eso, porque una vez que implementas esos cambios, ya institucionalizas una política pública para que los cambios después sean una práctica, para que esto sea una práctica. Así es que ahí es donde nos encontramos ahora. Nos encontramos administrando este cambio, trabajando con los agentes de cambio dentro del gobierno, trayendo innovación de fuera hacia dentro del gobierno. Nos encontramos en paralelo trabajando en cambios incluso a la estrategia digital, que lo planteamos desde un principio, que una estrategia digital tiene que ser dinámica y tiene que ser flexible, tiene que adaptarse a los cambios de tecnología, tiene que adaptarse al aprendizaje. Y es bien importante esto, lo que nos ha permitido poder ir corrigiendo, porque lo que nos imaginamos hace un año, hoy ya en la práctica, incluso ya no es a veces práctico o a veces la mejor opción. Así es que estamos haciéndole pequeños cambios a las líneas de acción de la estrategia digital para poder tener la mejor estrategia digital siempre. Una estrategia digital que realmente cubra y dé respuesta a las necesidades de un país como es México, que está ahorita realmente en una etapa de vibrante cambio. Y me gustaría, como cierre, también decir que es muy importante no solo pensar localmente. En un mundo hiperconectado, y todos los que estamos aquí sabemos a lo que me refiero, una estrategia digital tiene que pensar y actuar localmente, pero pensar globalmente. Actuar localmente quiere decir que dé respuesta a las necesidades de la gente, no nada más a nivel federal, sino estatal y municipal, con lo cual estamos trabajando mucho, pero también dar respuesta a las necesidades globales. Y nos encontramos con una agenda internacional muy importante, que es también mucho aprendizaje de todo el tiempo y todos los días, porque son los grandes retos que vienen de aquí para adelante. Son los temas de gobernanza de Internet, de libertad de expresión, de ciberseguridad, y todas estas cosas estamos caminando y respondiéndolas. Y aquí me gustaría cerrar agradeciendo, porque mucha gente que está aquí ha colaborado muy de cerca con nosotros en la creación de la estrategia digital, en la revisión de la estrategia digital, pero también en lo que ahora vamos a construir como gobernanza de las tecnologías de la información y comunicación, y esto es lo que es importantísimo para nosotros, la colaboración con industria, con la academia y con el gobierno. Muchísimas gracias.
As I said, I think many parts of the world take inspiration from Mexico, and what you just outlined underscores there's good reason for this inspiration. I look forward to coming back in our dialogue to follow up on some of these issues. But right now, please, let me turn to Dr. Chen from Taiwan. Dr. Chen, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. In Taiwan, we don't really have a digital agenda as currently defined by EU. But more than 35 years ago, a few visionaries in our government has set up several research institutes that do fundamental research in, say, IC technology, communication technology, and software technology. The offshoot of that is today we have several world-leading IC manufacturing company and chip design company that compete head-to-head with the top manufacturing in the world. And also, currently, in terms of broadband access, as of 2012, about 80% of the geographic area of Taiwan has access to 30 megabit per second broadband network. And we expect that by 2015, 80% of the geographic area of Taiwan will be covered by more than 100 megabit per second broadband access. And in terms of adopting the internet and high-speed network of the 1.3 small and medium business in Taiwan, about 70% have already used computer and internet as part of their business practice. And in terms of individual use, currently Taiwan has about 72% of its population regular use of internet. And we expect that figure to go up to 80% by the year 2016. And so you can see that Taiwan is a very highly connected country. And in fact, today, because most of the population are concentrated on the western coastal area, actually 97% of the family already live in the area, they have access to 100 megabit per second broadband access. And as a country, we also invest heavily in R&D. Over the last few years, we maintain an investment level of 3% GDP in R&D. So that is the current state of Taiwan. And in the immediate future, our government has three strategies in terms of the ICT area. One is to create a new and stable broadband regulatory framework, such as net neutrality and universal access, and to accelerate cloud computing by utilizing the buying power of public sector. And also, we want to increase the connectivity of all kind of device, service, and application, cover all kinds of protocol, and so that the digital usage of our society can be increased. In fact, Taiwan government has already initiated a 3-year smart city project to be studied next year. The in order to promote the IoT application. And personally, I think government has a very significant role to play in promoting the ICT technology and the application and its use. Specifically, I think government can provide funding for important ICT infrastructure project in order to promote and spur the development of ICT technology and promote the usage and development of the ICT application. And also, the government can play a very significant role in speedy enactment of relevant law to enable a new form of online commerce and to protect personal data and privacy. And also, in the area of cybersecurity, I think the government has an important role in setting up a national standard of cybersecurity to ensure that the safety of the cyberspace, and so that we can instill public confidence in the use of internet and digital technology in their everyday use. So that's my brief introduction.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. And I'm sure everyone will agree with me who's been an observer of Taiwan, that just the transformation of this country and its leadership role now is incredibly impressive. When we get to the dialogue, I'm going to try to ask Dr. Chen to pinpoint what were some of the pivotal things that have been done that catapulted them to this position. But first, I want to end the first round of the panel with calling on Minister Johnson from the Ministry of Communication Technologies of Nigeria. Minister Johnson.
Thank you very much, Andrew, and good morning, everybody. If I could just preface my comments with one or two sentences about Nigeria in general. Nigeria is the largest and the most populous country in Africa. With the recent rebasing of our GDP, we also have the largest economy, just over $500 billion, and we are one of the fastest growing economies in the world. What we have realized over time is that ICT is actually a big driver of that growth. Today, the ICT sector contributes about 10% to GDP, and it also enables an additional 2.5%. So ICTs have become a very important and strategic part of our own economic agenda going forward. But speaking about digital agendas, I think there's a realization that we have to have a very comprehensive approach so that we can continue to sustain the growth of the ICT sector in terms of its ability to create wealth, to create jobs, and to support socio-economic development. We have 4 strategic thrusts in our digital agenda, and they are, very quickly, they're about connecting Nigeria, which is providing a ubiquitous broadband infrastructure all across the country. It is Connect Nigerians, which is ensuring that as we build this infrastructure, many more Nigerians are aware of what the internet and broadband portends, and they actually use this infrastructure. The third is about Nigeria content, and it's really about ensuring that we have local companies that are growing at the same rate as our multinationals are growing, and that there is more relevant content on the internet for Nigerians to be attracted to this infrastructure. And the fourth is about ICT in government. You know, Alejandra talked about trust, building trust in government, and ICTs are a tremendous way to do that. ICTs can help us to improve accountability, transparency, and also the trust in government. Let me just talk a little bit about these 4 areas. They're all driven by 3 major policies that have been introduced in the last 2 years: the National ICT Policy, the National Broadband Strategy and Roadmap, and the Guidelines on Nigeria Content for the ICT industry. Let me just speak a little bit about these 4 areas. In terms of connecting Nigeria, again, Nigeria is a large country, 1 million square kilometers, 170 million people. But the unique part about Nigeria is that we live in almost all parts of the country. We have a rural population. 50% of the population lives in rural areas. And these are the people that need to be included in any digital agenda that you have. So our challenge is, how do we get that infrastructure to the most remote parts of Nigeria? Our National Broadband Plan talks about increasing our penetration in broadband from 6% to 30% over the next 2 years. And by achieving that 30% target, we would have connected about 75–80% of the population to the internet. Today, there are about 45 million Nigerians that access the internet on a regular basis. And this means things that we've got to have a lot more spectrum that is auctioned. Most of our population will access the internet via mobile broadband, so ensuring that we have enough spectrum is a major thing that we're doing. We need to also build the backhaul, the fiber optic, all across the country, and we're working very hard with the state governments, the municipal governments, who have a role to play in actually supporting the build-out of this infrastructure in a cost-effective manner, in an accelerated manner. We are also using our universal service provision funds to ensure that that infrastructure goes out to the rural areas where it is needed most, subsidizing or incentivizing our private sector companies to go into those areas. And we're licensing regional infrastructure companies because our infrastructure today is quite unbalanced. Very good in the commercial areas, in Lagos, Port Harcourt, Kano, Abuja, reasonably good infrastructure, but as you go out of those major cities, the infrastructure is not that good. So we're licensing regional companies that will actually have the mandate to build fiber in those particular regions, 6 regions, 7 regions all across the country, giving us a much more balanced infrastructure. The second is around connecting Nigerians, and that's ensuring that as we build out this infrastructure, the Nigerians understand the value of that infrastructure, we need to use it. And if I refer to the World Bank statistic that says that for every 10% increase in broadband penetration, you deliver, in developing economies like Nigeria, you deliver a 1.3% increase in GDP. Now that 1.3% increase in GDP is as a result of what goes on that infrastructure. So what we now need to do is ensure that when we build out that infrastructure, there is a reason for Nigerians to come to that infrastructure, and that we begin to talk about local content. Local content in terms of relevant software, relevant applications that bring people to the internet. And we try to catalyze that in some of the work we're doing in the software development industry. We have supported the development of incubation or accelerator hubs, where we get young Nigerians to develop their software. We support them with broadband, we support them with mentorship, we support them with business planning, and very importantly, we support them with venture capital funds. We are just going to launch the first solely IT venture capital fund. It's about $23 million. We have seeded, government has seeded that fund with $9 million. And what it means is that young Nigerian entrepreneurs that have good software applications will be able to develop those applications and develop it into substantial content. And we've seen a lot of traction here. Our e-commerce industry is growing very fast, and that is, again, bringing people to the internet. It's growing at about 60–70% year on year. We've moved from, these companies are moving from hundreds of transactions to millions of transactions a month. And so that is really beginning to drive the economic activity on the internet. We have a very interesting program, which is, again, using ICT's, the digital agenda, which is using ICT to create jobs. We have a digital jobs agenda where we're collaborating with these platforms all over the world that actually outsource their work, little bits of work on the internet. They're called microworks and e-lancing. They outsource the work on the internet, and what you really need is just a PC, a mobile phone, and an internet connection for you to actually have a job or create wealth on the internet. We trained 2,000 people just last year, and as a result of that, we actually generated 22,000 Nigerians are now doing freelance work on the internet. So we're rolling that out with the help of the Rockefeller Foundation all across the country. And what that means, again, is that this digital agenda is not about just bringing the internet to people, it's ensuring that there's economic activity and there's job and wealth creation from that as well. We just hosted Demo Africa 2014. Africa is now seen as in terms of the next billion to be connected to the internet, it's also been seen as a center of innovation. And we hosted Demo Africa just last week, where 40 African startups were pitching their software solutions to a group of international venture capital managers. And the good thing about that is that while these are local, a lot of those applications are very exportable. So we're building a local industry that is local to us, important to us, but we know that those applications can also be exported to all parts of the world. So that's part of the digital agenda. The fourth aspect of our digital agenda is IT in government, and that is so critical. There are two things that we can do with IT in government. The first thing is it really is one of the most effective ways to drive a digital agenda. Governments tend to have a lot of procurement power when it comes to ICTs. And we're using that procurement power to support the local industry. So a lot of things we're doing, the single window portal, which is our services portal, where a lot more government services are being implemented online, are being put online. So passports, things like passports, your driving license, all of that is done online. In a few days' time, we will actually put all the company registration, pre and post business registration online. So it means that citizens don't have to travel to particular government offices, whether in Abuja or anywhere else in the country, to do their business with government. And again, this begins to build that trust and build that, that accountability and transparency that is very important for government. So that's one way we're delivering services over the internet, and we're also using our procurement power to support the local industry. We have a policy within government. If we're trying to drive a local agenda, one of the things that we're pushing in government is that we want to purchase as much as possible local hardware, locally manufactured hardware. So we have about 5 or 6 companies that assemble PCs, laptops, and all that, and tablets. And we're saying that if we're building a local industry, then government must be at the forefront of supporting that local industry. So we try and target our procurement to the local industry. A lot of the software, unless it's very complex, a lot of the software that we utilize in government, we try and use local companies to develop that software, to maintain that software. The services portal is developed wholly and completely by a Nigerian-based company. ICTs are also a very good way of supporting an inclusion agenda. If you come from a country like I do, where, and you know, you've also mentioned this in Mexico, a large part of the population is poor, a large part of the population is excluded from many of the development programs that you have. Women are even more excluded when it comes to development. And so we've used ICTs to support that inclusion agenda, digital inclusion, financial inclusion, and also the inclusion of women in development. In terms of financial inclusion, today about, I think it's about 35% of Nigerians are excluded from any financial services. So they don't have a bank account, and really and truly they don't exist as far as financial services are concerned. And so we're using our infrastructure of the post offices to partner with banks, mobile money, mobile network operators to actually get financial services to a much larger part of the population who really wouldn't be included. And of course, using the mobile phone as the means by which to do that. We're driving a digital inclusion agenda. While you know, mobile phones, we've got 100 million mobile phone penetration in Nigeria, but we still need to do more. Mobile phones are still a little bit expensive for some of our citizens, and what we've done is that we've built these rural IT centers, which ensures that even if you can't afford a PC or tablet, you can go to a rural IT center, which will have about 20 or 30 computers, connectivity to the internet, you can do government services, you can teach, you can learn education. All of these things are in these locations in different local governments in rural areas, so that it helps to really support that inclusion agenda. And the final thing is around gender inclusion. Like I said, we have started programs that will, women are less present online than men. It's true all over the world, but the gap is even bigger in developing economies. And what we're doing is that we're encouraging women to get online. We started these digital girls clubs in our secondary schools, again, helping, working with girls to get them to be very comfortable with technology, either in terms of developing software or even thinking about a career in ICTs, and that's very important for us. These have been very successful. One of the most exciting parts of it for the girls is actually assembling and disassembling computers. They're very excited about that. We're also working with trying to get more women into the ICT sector. We're working with Huawei, one of the largest telecoms companies, to train 1,000 girls in the first instance on basic ICT skills. Out of those 1,000 girls, 200 of them that have performed best in this training will then be trained to be certified data administrators, and they will get jobs in the ICT sector. So 1,000 girls, 200 of them will be employed in the ICT sector. We want to roll that out to be 10,000, 100,000 girls. And what this does is that it ensures that we're actually creating opportunities for more women in the ICT sector, and we're supporting that digital inclusion agenda. So that's our agenda. It's really, four major thrusts. Infrastructure is the biggest one that we need to focus on. When the infrastructure is built, it's about making sure that we use that infrastructure to deliver the economic and the social benefits of the internet in health, education, business, e-commerce, and all of that. The third thing is ensuring that we build a vibrant domestic ICT industry that will then continue to sustain that growth. And the fourth is, the convening or the power of government to use ICTs to support citizen engagement, citizen awareness, and really the utilization of the internet to drive accountability, transparency, and trust. Thank you.